It's about to go live. Okay, I think we are live. Welcome, everyone.
Good morning, everyone, or afternoon, whenever you're watching this.
That's right. We have people in different time zones. I hope y'all didn't have too many problems with the Microsoft issues this morning. It seems to be wreaking havoc with just about everything and everyone. So I'm glad to see Paula because I thought she might be stuck at the airport in Atlanta.
I landed 3 hours ago, so we're good.
Oh, 3 hours ago. Wow. Okay. Well, welcome. We are Paula and Michelle. And if you would just drop in the chat who you are, where you're coming from.
Okay.
South Carolina. Okay. Good morning.
Good morning from Maryland.
I know there are issues this morning, so second grade, year 12. Okay. I always think of second grade as being the fluency year. As a former literacy specialist, that's what I always think of in second grade. It's all about literacy. So.
Maybe, Michelle, we can take a minute to introduce ourselves while people are coming in. And if people can, I will leave a little note to ask people to introduce themselves in the comments while you talk about who we are.
Right. Well, we are Paula and Michelle. I am Michele Vosberg, and I am a longtime teacher. I have taught everything from preschool to college, spent many years in middle schools, taught reading for a while, was a reading literacy coach and a reading teacher for a while. And so my background is kind of all over the place and lots of experience. And now Paula and I run the Inspired Together Teachers podcast, and we work with teachers. We do workshops and support teachers. And we also have a mentoring program for beginning teachers.
And I am Paula Schmidt. My background is in special education, actually K-12 special ed. And I did most of my teaching in middle school and high school special ed. I actually taught with Michelle for a while. We did some co-teaching, and together we started this business to support teachers and to help them live their best work life and home life. And the Enneagram is a huge part of what we do. We are both certified Enneagram trainers. It's become a passion area for us. So we are so excited to talk to you a little bit about that.
Yes, I thought I would just start, for those of you who don't know, just talking a little bit about what the Enneagram is. Our session that'll be streaming today is called From Stress to Success, Intentional Living Through the Enneagram. And some people know about the Enneagram and many teachers don't. I think businesses have been using it as a tool for a while, but we've not seen so much in school. So you may or may not know anything about the Enneagram, and you may or may not know your Enneagram type. What the Enneagram is, it is a personality styles assessment tool. It is similar to things that you probably know if you've done Strength Finders, True Colors, Myers-Briggs, those kinds of things. It's a similar tool, but it's also very different from those things. It will help you to understand yourself and your behavior patterns in new ways. It will tell you your strengths and your weaknesses, but it really helps you dig in to see yourself. And not only just, here's the way I am, but it gives you a path or a way to move forward and understand where you could go. And that's both your potential. So you will learn things about yourself when you study the Enneagram that you will see as potential. And it's like, wow, I never thought of that as a strength. I never thought I could be really good at that. But you will also see patterns that none of us like that are potentially our negative patterns. And those negative patterns are things that can drag you down. They can get you stuck. They can get you in trouble. They can keep you from living the life that you want to have. And on our podcast, we talk all the time about living an intentional life. We aren't a teaching strategies podcast so much as a personal development podcast. So those are things that are really important to us.
We are wondering, for those of you who are on here, what is your familiarity with the Enneagram so far? Have you, first of all, have you had a chance to watch our recorded session? Or do you know anything about the Enneagram, or are you new into the Enneagram world?
Mm-hmm. Yes, and welcome. I see some new names in there, Erica, and welcome to everyone. Really, we're very glad you're here and happy to get to know you. While you're typing that in, I'll just tell you a little more about the Enneagram. I talked about how it is helpful for you to understand yourself, but the way that we see it working with teachers is it helps you see behavior patterns in general. It helps you see behavior patterns in students. And the Enneagram is all about your motivations and why you do the things you do and what it is that you're looking for that makes you have the behavior patterns that you want. And so I think there's just incredible opportunity when you understand those behavior patterns and the motivations behind them. You understand the motivations of students. And we hear all the time, my students aren't motivated. How can I motivate my students? I can't get them to stop doing this, or I can't get them to start doing that. And that's all about their motivation. So if you can understand their motivations, you will be well on the road to be able to change patterns in ways that work for students and that help you out in the classroom as well.
The really interesting piece about Enneagram is it's been around for a very, very long time, longer than all of the other personality styles assessments. And it's really about living in community and understanding others around you so you can live in community with them, which would be your students, your family members, your friends. But it's also about learning yourself in your own patterns. And that's where the self-care piece really comes in. As you watch our video later about the Enneagram, there are 9 types, and you will definitely see yourself in some of the types, and other types you will say, that is not me at all. But I know a student who has those exact patterns, or I know a family member who has those exact patterns. So as you're looking at it as self-care for yourself, and how do you understand what you do, how you might go into negative patterns, what that might look like in your life, and how to turn that around, you also will see it in other people.
Yeah, we always talk about it's not your job to type other people, but you definitely see people's patterns. And once you start to understand those patterns, it really helps with relationships. It can really turn things around if you're struggling with some students in your class and you just can't quite figure them out, or what makes them tick, or how to, get rid of negative behaviors or bring out positive behaviors in students. The Enneagram really helps you with that. The other thing that it really helps you do, I believe, is that it builds a sense of empathy, because we all get frustrated by people's behavior patterns, the negative ones, right? It's a part of our life. We just do. But I think that the Enneagram really helps you understand the patterns and why they do what they do and why people act how they are. And it helps you have compassion towards them and, what they're trying to do, and the feelings and the behaviors and the patterns that they have and where they come from. And I always think our world could stand to be a little more empathetic. We could be kinder, and we need more kindness. And the Enneagram really helps with that too. And that's another sort of a self-care situation. If everyone is getting along and things are flowing smoothly, it causes less stress. And when it causes less stress, you feel less stressed and you are happier. We connect this sometimes, not in this particular presentation, but we also sometimes connect this to all the happiness research. So it's a good thing to know about in many ways. And it really can help you balance that work life and home life that we talk about all the time on our podcast. It's balancing work life and home life.
And the intentionality that Michelle is talking about with the intentionality piece is when you know what your negative patterns might be for your type, you can start self-identifying, I am actually going down this negative pattern. I'm starting to do the negative patterns of my type. We lay it out in our presentation, but then here are some steps you can take to move away from those negative patterns. And we always talk about the negative patterns as other people can perceive you as having those negative patterns, which can impact your relationships negatively, or you may actually be falling into those negative patterns. And you may look at some of the lists of things on the negative patterns and say, well, that's not a negative pattern. Being a competitive is a great pattern to have in my life. And it is if you are a 3 or maybe some of these other types, but for a different type, that might be perceived as a negative pattern. So the patterns, our whole world is filled with patterns, and these patterns, understanding them, knowing them, and identifying when you are doing some of these can truly be life-changing.
For sure. I'll just give a couple of examples, and we talk much more about this in our session. But here's just a couple quick examples so you understand what we're talking about. So let's take the type 8, and you'll learn about all the types in our session as well. But let's just take the type 8 who has patterns of wanting to be in control. They like power. They want to run things. They want to be in control at all times. They're often leaders, strong personalities. They many times go with their gut and they make quick decisions, and they're very decisive, and they can confront people. And so they're very strong, and they love to have power and control and leadership and those kinds of things. But it can cause you personal stress if, in your trying to save everything and redirect things and create things and build things, you get involved in things that are not in your circle of control. And so suddenly you are trying to change things that are not in your power to change, and you can have not a deep impact in that, but yet you're still trying to make things better and to fix things that even though you probably can't do it, that causes stress because you work hard at it, you're very invested in it, and you're excited about it, and it's meaningful to you, but working really hard at something that you can't control causes you stress. And so there's an example of how that might work in your life when you get a pattern, take it to an extreme, and then get sort of, out of alignment with it. And then you're giving yourself stress.
The Enneagram is broken into 9 different personality types, and you will most likely, after you get started watching our presentation, will be able to identify, I am definitely not this. The nots are easier to identify. You'll say, oh, I'm not that, I'm not that. One of the things that we like to break it down is if you're unsure, if you're between a couple different types, is some of the types are heart types, which they're led by their heart. Some of them are head types, which they are led by thinking things through. And another 3 are gut types. So we have 3 head types, 3 heart types, 3 gut types. And the gut types follow their gut. They listen to their body. They have a good GQ versus EQ versus IQ. So it's so fascinating. We get to just do a little tiny piece of it in our video recorded session that you get to see, but we also do have a workshop. So if you love this, we have an online workshop that I think is linked at the end of that presentation that you can dive deeper into, an online course. And there's so much more. The more you find out about it, the more you will see application in your life, left and right.
And you will see connections as well. Like I see Tina. Hi, Tina. Tina is talking about taking a different personality assessment with her school that the principal had them do, and that she is an activator. And activators' patterns are very like a type 8. So I'm already thinking, okay, you might be a type 8, but you'll know when you look at the Enneagram and you read the descriptions. And even though we're going to give you just a 30-minute overview of it, you'll see patterns in that, and you'll be able to make connections. You will absolutely see your spouse, your children, your students, your boss, your friends. You'll see them in the patterns.
And even though you're looking for self-care for yourself, understanding the people you live and work with and love and teach is actually a form of self-care, because then you're not trying to fix somebody to think like you when you realize they just don't think like me. This is how they think. I understand their motivators, their patterns, and here's how I can interact with them in the best way.
I just typed into the chat to have you share any types of patterns that you see in yourself or others. You don't have to identify them as Enneagram patterns, but you just say, oh, my child has a pattern where she is very anxious all the time and she wants to do everything right. And it's a strong pattern. What kinds of patterns do you see in people?
Erica, I see your comment there about if you're having a hard time figuring out if you are a 1 or a 3. 1 and 3 have a lot of similar patterns. You think you are more of a 1, but you have a lot of 3 qualities. I'll start this and let Michele finish this. I would look at your key motivator. What motivates you to do the things you do? Because 3s and 1s are motivated a little bit differently. Their patterns might look the same, but their motivations are a little bit different. Michele, do you want to go into that? I won't.
Okay, yes. What they have in common is both are working machines and can work like nobody's business and can get a lot done. The difference comes in the motivations. The 1s are motivated because it is what is right. It is what is good. They want to put good into the world. They want to make things the way they're supposed to be. They have a strong sense of morals, and this is how it's done, and this is the way to do it. And that is what drives them. 1s often try to fix other people because other people don't do it right, and they don't do it my way, and they don't do it the way it's supposed to be. And 1s are truly often right, and they are doing it the right way. 3s are doing that. They're a heart type. They lead with their hearts, and 3s are doing it because they don't feel a sense of value without the work. So 3s often get their value from the work. If I do this good work, I will be valued in the world. And so that is how they get their sense of self-esteem. So they will work really hard and, also do good work, but they will do it because it gives them their self-esteem. So different motivations. And that's our general advice anytime. And if, you watch the recording and you can't quite figure it out, always look at what is your motivation. Why do you do it? Okay, I'm a 5. I'm a type 5. I also have the same thing with trying to do the work and do it right. But as a 5, my reasoning is because 5's biggest fear is that someone might see them as being incompetent. They don't want to be incompetent. So I will overwork, over-prepare, over-plan, overdo the work because I don't want anyone to think I'm not competent. I'm not doing it because I have this sense of the world must do it the right way, and that's important, or the sense of that's how I get my value. So there's three examples of similar patterns, but that have different motivations. Remember at the beginning, I said that motivations were really important, and understanding the motivations behind something is really what helps you to make that type, not just the behavior patterns, which is also why, we always say, don't try to type other people or don't try to type your students. You can look at the patterns and deal with the behaviors, but you don't have to type them because you don't always know the motivation. Sometimes you do, especially, if you're in a classroom all day, every day with kids, sometimes you understand why they do what they do, or, your spouse or your families, you know them well enough to know that. So you can sometimes type people. But if you don't know the motivations, it's hard to type them accurately.
Mm-hmm. Erica, you noted that you like things to be correct. You have a hard time relaxing, more of a people pleaser. That would make me think a little bit leaning toward the 1.
Yeah, I would think so too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yep. Because right next to the 1 is the 9 on the Enneagram. If you can see the visual in our presentation, they are the people pleasers. So you've got that perfectionist of a 1 right there. 3s are a little bit more of the achievers. They're doing it because they want to achieve. 9s want to do it so they can do it right. They have a hard time relaxing. Yeah. The 1s, yes. The 1s have a hard time because they have a hard time relaxing because what if somebody else doesn't do it quite as well as they could do it? They know they can do it, right? Where 3s are a little bit more motivated by that achievement. And I want everyone to see that I can do this right. There's a little bit different motivation there. So certainly don't want to type you, Erica, but what you wrote might lead me to think you're a little bit more towards the 1 side.
The words, I like things to be correct. That is a 1 phrase. Yes, very much so.
Mm-hmm. And I think, working off that example, it's really good then to understand what are the positive patterns of a 1, What are the negative patterns of a 1? And then how can you best take care of yourself so you don't get so stressed out knowing those patterns? And just in that short little recorded video, we speak a little bit about that. Obviously, we can only do as much as we can do in a short time. We could talk about Enneagram training or Enneagram all day. We've been trained. There's so many different directions you can go, but these are the basics. So hopefully that helps you to identify your type in just that short video, the negative patterns, the positive patterns, and what you can do to kind of take care of yourself, knowing when those patterns start to happen.
Yeah, and if you do want to dig, deeper, you can read things. There's lots of books. There's also not such good stuff on the internet that's sort of like the little party tricks, like, oh, which one is funniest, or and they're fun, but they don't. I mean, this is actually there's deep, scientific research behind all of this. But also we have a little mini course that's on sale. It's not even a mini course. It turned into a regular course that just during this event for these 3 days is for $59. So that's something that you might want to dig into if you really want to dig into this more and understand the patterns. And Paul and I will be in there, and it's asynchronous, but we'll be in there and commenting and talking to people in there.
Margaret, it's interesting. It a little bit, I definitely don't want to type you, but being very organized, working alone, your motivations for working alone would be really interesting too. Liking to see everyone happy. I could be way off, and I certainly don't want to type anyone. Michele, maybe I'm leaning 3 a little bit. Do you think? Maybe.
Yeah, it's hard to know because the working too much is a pattern lots of types have. 2s have that all over the place because they just can't stop helping everyone. But a 3 is known to be the super workaholics. I mean, they're the super achievers. Although any type can be organized. 6s are often extremely organized because 6s can have a lot of anxiety, and so how they calm their anxiety is organize everything and label all the spices in their kitchen and put them in pretty little rows in jars that match, that kind of thing. So many types are very organized as well. So I would have to know more about you, Margaret, in order to know that. So
hopefully you can get a little bit out of that session. I want to help you identify that more. I also want to say there's some really interesting research coming out about trauma and Enneagram, some different, not necessarily new research, but people connecting trauma research to the Enneagram. And that's where we've started to go recently into just expanding what we know about the Enneagram. And that has been fascinating for us because we see the direct connections. If you have trauma, you go into your negative patterns. If you can understand your negative patterns, you can start to move away from those and to become more resilient. So.
Does anyone else have any questions? We just have a couple of minutes left. Paula's typing.
Yes, I was just typing, just letting everyone know that we hope you enjoyed that recorded session. We are so passionate about this. If we could have every teacher learn about the Enneagram for self-care for themselves, for understanding their students, for understanding maybe why their family members don't understand why they're so invested in their school. There are so many pieces to this.
And it's a domino effect. I mean, I think the first thing is you identify yourself and you use the Enneagram for yourself, for your own self-improvement, to reduce your own stress, to bring out your strengths. I love the idea that it can make you stronger in who you are and your best skills. And I love that. And if you see the potential patterns, you can head them off and say, whoa, those are potentially my areas of caution, so I'm going to be aware of them. But then you work on yourself, and then you understand people around you. You have better relationships in your family. I didn't know about the Enneagram when my kids were young, but I wish I did, because it would have made things so much easier. Getting along with your team, your colleagues, your principal, and your students, and understanding their patterns and why they're doing things helps you to fix those issues, which then reduces your stress some more, because everything in your life, can run more smoothly when you're understanding people and understanding how to talk to someone, how to talk to a child that changes their behavior. that alone, makes it worth understanding these patterns because you've just improved those kinds of relationships and it brings you less stress. So there's a big cycle of this and understanding and how it can improve lots of areas in your life.
Any questions here before we wrap up? And it looks like we maybe have 1 more minute.
We can just talk about where to find us too. We have a website, Inspired Together Teachers. We are Inspired Together Teachers on Facebook and on Instagram. And our podcast is Inspired Together Teachers also. And you can find the links to the podcast wherever you listen to your podcast. We're on 150 channels, so you can find us everywhere. But I also we have the show notes on our website, and you can also listen to it from our website. If you're interested in mentoring, we have a side shoot of that, a mentoring program, and that is on Inspired Together Learning. We have a separate website for that, for the mentoring, and also on LinkedIn, we are Inspired Together Learning. But we would love to have you, come and find us, explore the website, listen to the podcast. We love feedback. We love it when people send us notes and comments, and we love to know where you're from and how you're using the podcast. So we would love to hear from you. That makes our day. Every time we get an email, we're always talking to each other and talking about it.
And we do have several podcast episodes that are about the Enneagram.
Yes, we have a series of 5 of them, I think, or 6 maybe, 5 or 6 a series that we did about the Enneagram. We also have one about self-care for teachers, Real Self-Care it's called. So those would be great to check out. These are the topics that interest you. Okay, I think our time is up, and I'm not really sure about the process on the back end of this because we're not controlling that, but we will say thank you, and please, go watch our session. It's live it's recorded. You can check it out all day today and enjoy that. And if you want to keep all the sessions, you can also purchase those for a very reasonable price and get everybody's sessions that you can keep and watch at a later time. So that's a great idea as well.
It's been great getting to talk to all of you today.